So if you've started applying for federal student aid, you might realize there are a few things that might count against you. But first I want to start with a story. A story about a girl who I once knew who got into the college of her dreams. And not only that, she got a full ride scholarship. And this isn't an uncommon story, but it gets uncommon. See, her parents had done everything they possibly could to help her get into that college, including setting up a 529 college subsidized savings account so that they could save as much money as they could in the right way to help her get in. And they were ecstatic because that meant they could still help their younger sons get into the college they wanted to without them necessarily having to get a massive scholarship like their sister did. And so they lived happily ever after. Until, that is, it was found out that they had the college 529 savings account. You'd think it'd be a good thing, but it wasn't, because they took away her scholarship because they knew about that. Because she had, or at least her parents did, the money to pay for it. Now, if you're applying through FSA, if you're applying for the FAFSA to get a scholarship of some sort, to get federal student aid, you might be aware that your income is one of the things that will count against your kid the most, and savings does account for about 6% of the consideration. But if you're a kid saving up because your parents can't afford to help you, it counts for 20%. Now that story might make you think, God, there's no reason for me to continue saving. I mean, I'll just lose out on potential student aid. Why would I even do that? I might get more. I might get more for student aid than I would for just saving up as much money as I could at a minimum wage job working at McDonald's, which is the only job you can get. Well, this is the exact question that I had years ago when I first applied for college. Years ago, look, I'm like in my 20s. It's not that long ago. Anyway, so I was asking that question and I took the next logical step. I asked my parents what they would do. They had no idea. It'd been a little while since they'd graduated. So I went to the next person I thought who would know. My school counselor. My high school counselor had no idea. So at this point, I was understandably a little bit flustered. So I got my brokerage on the phone. I called Charles Schwab and I said, hey, Charles, hand me over to my broker. I need to talk to him. So he phoned me over, he patched me over to my broker, and I asked my broker the question, and he had no idea either. So at this point, I'm really flustered, and I call the college that I'd gotten accepted to. They also didn't know. So at this point, I'm stuck in between a rock and a hard place. I'm working a job, I'm saving up as much money as I can, while taking community college classes, I'm working really hard, and I don't think that it's gonna amount to anything. So I start doing some research. I've got to figure out if I should stop saving and just buy as much gold as I possibly can or something like that. I had to know what I could do. And after about a week's worth of research, I discovered the answer. A way that you could save money for college without them even being able to look at it when they're considering giving you federal student aid. And no, it's not money laundering for a drug cartel. As much as I love Ozark or Breaking Bad, it's a lot easier than that. All you've got to do is have a time machine, make yourself age really fast, and then go retire. Simple as 1, 2, 3, right? I'm only half kidding. You actually do have to start a retirement account. And that's the answer. It's a retirement account. Now, Jeff Pesos, you might be asking me, how in the world does starting a retirement account help me save for college? And that is a very good question. See, as I was reading, I discovered that there are a lot of accounts that FSA considers an asset and counts against you when they're trying to figure out how much federal aid to give you. Among those are checking accounts, savings accounts, cash, net worth, stocks, bonds, certificate of deposits, even your parents' assets count against you. However, there is one specific type of asset that never will count against you, and that is retirement accounts. Now, the one I'm going to be focusing on today is not a 401k. As great as that is, most college-age kids or pre-college age kids won't have a full-time job with benefits that can offer an employer-matched 401k. So instead, I'm going to be focusing on basically the next best thing, or in my opinion, the best thing, the Roth IRA. Now, when you hear Roth IRA, you might hear gibberish. You might think that's just accountant speech for something that will steal your money and you don't ever get it back until you're a million years old. And that's not exactly true. I want to clear up a few misconceptions about Roth IRAs before I continue and explain how this can really help you. First, what is a Roth IRA? A Roth IRA is basically a government-subsidized piggy bank that lets you put as much investments in it as you want. You can put gold or whatever in there. Because the government makes you a promise. They say, hey, you've already paid us income taxes. Any money that you earn on the investments in this IRA account, you don't got to pay taxes on, as long as you wait until you retire to use it. Now, Roth IRAs more specifically focus on stuff like stocks or CDs or bonds, those kind of things. So, for example, I could invest $1,000 into Tesla, and then if I made $10,000, I wouldn't have to pay taxes on any of that $10,000. But here's the catch. catch. And this is the one that people are most afraid of. You can't take your money out. That's actually not true. You can take your money out. You can take that $1,000 that you put in out whenever you want without getting penalized. But if you are under the age of 59 and a half and you take out anywhere above that first $1,000, you gotta pay a 10% fee. You basically gotta pay another $1,000 for taking it out. And it adds into your income as well. It makes it so that you're in a higher income bracket.
Now, Jeff,
You might be asking me again.
this still doesn't really help me with college. I mean, I don't really understand. I'd love to do this. I mean, it sounds like a really cool thing, but how can I save for college with that?
Well, as it turns out, there are a few ways you can take out money from a Roth IRA without paying any penalties on it. The first is to use a time machine, which most people don't have, so I'll skip over that one. You don't want to be 59 and a half before you use it. The second...
Oh, wow! You are not gonna believe what almost just happened to me.
is to get hit by a bus. Pretty easy, right? It's a lot easier than building a time machine. So basically you can pay for emergency medical expenses with Roth IRA money, which is pretty cool. Even cooler, you can buy your first house with all your Roth IRA money. It's really easy. It's literally one tax form. Or you can pay for higher education expenses. If you're going to college, you can pay for it with your Roth IRA, and they can't look at it when they're considering how much student aid to give you. Now, if you know anything about Roth IRAs, you're saying to yourself,
But I can only contribute $6,000 a year. That's not the $30,000 that I'll probably come out with, which is the average American student loan debt by the time people graduate, by the way.
that's why you gotta start early. Most people start doing a Roth IRA when they start actually working and when they get a solid job. But you, my friend, are gonna be different. You're gonna start a Roth IRA as soon as you possibly can. As soon as this video is over, if you mind, you can pause it right now and do it. See, if you start your senior year of high school putting money into a Roth IRA, and then you do that until the end of when you graduate, that's 5 years that you've been contributing. 5 years, $6,000, $30,000, the average amount of student loan debt by the time most students graduate in America. So you could literally pay it off without them taking away any federal aid or not even giving it to you in the first place. Now, there are a few things that you should keep in mind before you sign up for a Roth IRA planning to use it for college. Firstly, FAFSA is yearly, which means that you need to leave your money in there until you graduate, or even 6 months after you graduate, when your student loans start accruing interest. If you take it out of your Roth IRA before you apply for your last FAFSA, it will count as not only income, but also savings, and it'll count against you. Every single year, you just need to keep putting as much as you possibly can in there. Second, it's really easy to set up. All you have to do is set up a brokerage account. If you've already got one, just Google, for example, Schwab Roth IRA. Create an account and transfer money in, and then start investing in whatever stocks you want. And finally, one more trick that you can do to help everybody out, not just yourself. If you hit the like button, more people will be able to find this video, and more people will learn about the trick that they can use to save for college without being affected by financial aid. I don't even care if you subscribe. As a matter of fact, don't subscribe. Unless you really like the video, don't subscribe. Just like it, because I really want people to know about this. I want people to understand how they can start saving for college and how it's a good idea, even if you're only 18, or even if you're 22 and about to graduate. And with that being said, remember guys, save every penny, unless you need Subway, because Subway's good. This video is not sponsored. Adios.